Thank you guys for joining. For those who don't know me, I'm Nicole Balaschi. I'm the program director of Safe Harbor Cohasset Coalition. Safe Harbor, just a quick little background of Safe Harbor. We are the prevention coalition here in Cohasset. Our office is right in the library under the clock. So when you drive by on Ripley Road, our office is right below the clock. And we really work to instill the skill set with adults to provide good role modeling and make responsible choices. And then with the youth, really trying to empower confidence and self-worth. That's how we work to delay, and not have underage substance use. We are not just say no, and we are not abstinence-based. We are really just trying to delay as long as possible up to age 21, while also making sure that we're being a responsible community.
Do you work with social peer recovery?
I do, yes, yep. Yeah, and they're phenomenal. Mark Mulhern is amazing.
Yeah.
So we do work with a lot of the sectors here in Cohasset too. So we have Board of Health here, and then East Coast Recovery, which is right on 3A. They are our inpatient, outpatient. And then we have Evoke, which is also on 3A, and they are our detox and recovery, residential treatment. So we have a strong connection with the schools as well, law enforcement, and that's how we come together with our prevention efforts. It's really a community effort, and if we're not all aligned with the same mission, then we can't have the successes that we've had over the past 10 years. So this whole presentation is prevention with those who may be in the journey of addiction, looking for their journey to recovery. So NARCAN is available now throughout the entire town. It's accessible, free of charge. These are some of the kits you might see when you walk in. They're also in the library bathrooms. They're in the town hall lobby. They're in the police lobby. And they include 2 doses of the NARCAN, which we'll go over. They also include our resource brochure. So highly recommend if you ever need any assistance with you or a loved one, all the information is in here. There's contact information, but there's also we're trying to get the information out there, but there are scholarships for loved ones if they want to continue through their journey of recovery, sober living scholarships, and then also scholarships for family therapy. So if you have a loved one who is struggling with addiction, we're really trying to encourage family members to process that through therapy themselves. Therapy is really expensive now, so through the town, there are scholarships that you can apply for and get paid for. So that is just a little bit of what you'll find in these kits. As I mentioned to a few, the overdose prevention training, this is just like CPR, not the way that you use it. Hello, Bob, how are you? But essentially in the way that you get trained, can I have a show of hands how many have been CPR trained?
A long time ago. Yeah.
Okay. And have you ever had to use it?
Not yet.
Knock on wood, knock on all the wood.
Actually, before I got trained, I kind of used it.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. But about 99% of the chance you get trained and you don't luckily have to use it, right? And that's the same for NARCAN. So it's really, we're encouraging people to get trained, have the knowledge in the back of your mind, have the kits available, and then you're prepared, and hopefully you never have to use it. Okay? So again, any questions, please do not hesitate.
How will, is that something you can keep in your car? Does it have to be kept at room temperature?
It should be at room temperature.
Okay.
A lot of people do keep it in their car. The only thing is, it was just below freezing. So if you went to go use it, it could be frozen.
That's what my daughter said, yeah.
Yep. And likewise, if it's really hot, it could, essentially evaporate a little bit.
Put it in a small cooler, would that protect it? Or?
Within the car, if you can just keep it, the best is if it's in your
Near
purse.
the door and then bring it to the car
Yep,
with you.
yep, exactly. But if that's the only place, some people are homeless and they live in their cars, so we encourage have it there, if anywhere. A lot of people will put it in their medicine cabinet or their junk drawer as well, so that it's accessible if they need it. But if you're around town, I always have one in my purse, just so that it's readily available. All right, so a lot of this presentation, I will reiterate. I will sound like a broken record, but it's just to get all the information out there and so that you feel equipped if you are ever in the situation of an overdose. So what is an opioid? We have our prescription opiates, which is, for oxycodone, Percocet, Vicodin. If you have surgery, C-sections, wisdom teeth, pain management, this is where you'd see your prescription medication. We have our street opiates, which we hear a lot about in the media, heroin, fentanyl. And then we have our medications for opioid treatment. So that's our methadone, Suboxone, Vivitrol. NARCAN only works on opiates. Do you want me to close this? Really quick. So it will not work on any other prescription where we have benzos or cocaine if there's any other type of overdose occurring. However, we are living in a whole different age than we were 10, 20 years ago. So marijuana, more and more, we've found is laced with fentanyl. If you're not going to a dispensary, there's black market, and it's being more and more laced. Same with cocaine. The big thing that I push for prescription opiates, if you go on our website, there's the resource to check. There are so many online pharmacies now, and 90% of them are not legitimate. So you need to make sure if you are going to use an online pharmacy that you check to make sure that it is a legitimate online pharmacy, because we also have, through the non-legitimate pharmacies online, that's where we're finding more and more press pills. Press pills are essentially, if you think you're ordering Percocet or oxycodone for pain management, press pills are essentially fentanyl that look like the prescription that you're trying to get, and that's where we see overdoses as well. So I highly, highly stress if you are using an online pharmacy that you check to make sure that it is a legitimate one. Every opiate has a different potency and duration. So that's where we see the fentanyl. You can look here. The high that someone gets from fentanyl lasts very shortly when compared to, your morphine, heroin, and more of it is used to keep that high. The potency is higher, it doesn't last for as long, and that's why we see so many overdoses when it comes to fentanyl. What is an overdose? So there is a little diagram that will show you better than my fingers, but I am old school. I've been doing this for over a decade, and I will always come back to my fingers. So right now, your brain is telling you to breathe. You are all breathing. And these are your receptors in your brain telling you to breathe. When opiates enter your body, they attach to those receptors. And if there are too many opiates, they block all your receptors and they are no longer able to tell your body to breathe. So that is an overdose. NARCAN, when administered, comes in and knocks those opiates off. They're still hanging out in your body, but now your receptors can say, you can breathe again. So an overdose is essentially there's no oxygen getting to the brain. There's no message telling your brain to breathe. When NARCAN wears off, because it only lasts for 30 to 90 minutes, those opiates hanging out can potentially reattach. So we always say, call 911. Even if you have NARCAN. NARCAN is just a Band-Aid until you get medical assistance. So we always say, if you are in the event of an overdose, call 911, use your NARCAN, and wait for assistance, and then let them take over. So that's essentially what is happening. Your breathing slows down. It can take seconds depending on what the opiate is, depending on that potency, or it could take hours for an overdose to occur. Xylazine, has anyone heard of xylazine in the news? Some yes, some no. So that is essentially a sedative. It's an animal tranquilizer. Again, we live in a whole different age, so some who are using fentanyl, who are addicted, some of that fentanyl is being laced with xylazine, and they're overdosing from that because it's an animal tranquilizer, not meant for the human body. NARCAN would not work on that type of overdose. So what are the signs of an overdose? You can see here the skin it can turn blue, gray, shallow breathing, non-responsive. Some have the sound of a gurgling. The best way to check, if you take your knuckles onto your sternum, you rub on that person's sternum. If you do it to yourself right now, I don't encourage you, it hurts. All right, so if someone's doing this to you, you're gonna make any type of sign like get away, grunt, whatever it may be. Someone who is overdosing is not going to respond at all. That's your telltale sign. So NARCAN, if you have done the sternum rub, you found someone who is overdosed, you're going to use NARCAN. Like I mentioned, it lasts 30 to 90 minutes once it is administered. It can take up to 3 minutes for it to take effect. In these kits, where did I just put it? In these kits, you get 2 doses. So if you were to administer one and that person does not respond after 2 to 3 minutes, which feels like an hour in that time, you have a second dose. By the time you've done this first one and you're waiting for medical assistance to arrive, they typically come within that 2 to 3 minutes. If you're in a more secluded area, then go ahead and use that second dose. Yes?
How long can a person not breathe?
Before there's brain damage?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's typically, brain damage starts to set in about 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah, you start to lose that oxygen, and that's why we say to act fast. And it's all situational, of course, but it depends on how many receptors are blocked. But you can rescue breathe for someone as well. It all depends, again, situational, if you feel comfortable, but that person just needs oxygen. So if there's someone overdosing, you don't have NARCAN on them, and it's a loved one, you can potentially, you can breathe for them, give them breaths. You don't need to do CPR, you're just breathing in. So you would tilt the chin back, pinch the nose, and put some breaths, making sure that belly is rising. The chest rising, you don't want the belly rising. Yes?
We're going to get these handouts.
Yes, I just emailed it over to 143 TV, but I can also print this out for you guys, so you have the whole presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So this is what happens with NARCAN. I always say, when in doubt, you can use NARCAN. If you were to NARCAN yourself right now, there are no effects. So if you think someone is overdosing, you're not sure, and you give them NARCAN, you are going to do no harm. All right? So keep that in mind as well. So this is the better diagram without the fingers. This is just showing you what I just told you. So we have the brain receptors that are blocked by the opiates. NARCAN is administered into the nose, sprays in, knocks those opiates off. Still think my fingers are better, but that's fine. So these are myths that have been debunked. That NARCAN does not make people violent. There has been the myth that NARCAN makes people violent. If someone is NARCAN who is just overdosing, they had a lot of opiates in their system, they're obviously not going to wake up very happy. They were just high. They were feeling euphoric. But the NARCAN is not the reason they are feeling angry. It is because they no longer have that high. People do not become tolerant to NARCAN. You cannot build up a tolerance to NARCAN. There are, like we saw, there are different opiates in the system that can make you more and more, your tolerance for the opiate can go up. NARCAN, not so much. So you may have more opiates in your system. You might need to use more doses. But again, it's not because your tolerance has been built with NARCAN. So you just might need more and more of these. And NARCAN cannot get a person high. So again, like I said, there is no harm if you were to NARCAN someone who was not overdosing. NARCAN only, again, broken record, NARCAN only reverses the effects of an opioid overdose. If someone is overdosing from alcohol, any other drug that is not an opiate, it will not reverse that effect. So how to recognize and respond to an overdose. We're going to reiterate again. So you just did a sternum rub, or you saw someone take opiates in your home, and you know that they are overdosing. You are going to administer your NARCAN, and I'm going to show you how we administer. You're going to call 911, perform rescue breaths if you are comfortable, and you wait until help arrives. This is not a step-by-step. So if you are in the room and your phone is right here, you can put them on speaker, call 911 while you go and run and get your NARCAN. Or if your NARCAN's in your pocket, you give them NARCAN, then call 911. However the situation presents itself, just know that these are what needs to be included. NARCAN, 911, rescue breaths if you are comfortable. So this is what the NARCAN looks like that we give out. You peel here. Has anyone used, what is it, Afrin? Is that the spray? Yeah, the nasal spray. It's essentially the same. So you peel from the corner. This is a sensitive button. You're going to put it into one nostril, and then you press the button. And that is it. You want to make sure that the head is tilted, of course, as you administer. But once you press that button, it's all out. So make sure it is in the nostril. You wait the 2 to 3 minutes. And help should have arrived by then, but again, if they have not, you have that second dose.
So it's just one nostril?
One nostril, yep, spray. And that second dose can go in the same nostril, or you can switch it up.
And either one, they're equal?
Yep. We encourage you to stay until help arrives so that you can give the information to those who arrive on scene. If you are not comfortable being there when help arrives for whatever reason, we just ask that you leave that person in the recovery position. And what that is, there's another diagram that you'll see, but they're essentially on their side. Their leg is over, and their head is supported so that they can't roll forward, can't roll backwards. Some people who do come out of an overdose do throw up, so we just want to make sure that they do not choke on their vomit. So the Good Samaritan law, so this goes in hand with if you're not comfortable being there on site. This is a law that protects you from any situation. So if you are in a situation where there are drugs, you had no involvement with them, this law protects you. You will not be charged. There are the 3 W's that are the exceptions, that if you were to call 911. If there is a weight of drugs that looks like you are distributing drugs, the intent to sell, unfortunately, if you called 911, this does not protect you. They can charge you for distributing. If there are unregistered weapons on scene, and then if you have a warrant, if you have a known warrant for arrest, unfortunately, they need to make sure that they charge you for that warrant. The last one is DCF. So if there is a child present, they do just need to make sure that DCF gets involved to make sure that child is being taken care of appropriately. So again, broken record, we're just going to make sure everyone knows you peel, place, and press. That's how you use that NARCAN. You peel that paper, you place into the nostril, and press. Wait the 3 minutes, and then you can re-administer. Rescue breaths if you feel comfortable. Again, you lift that chin, you squeeze the nose, and then you're going to breathe in and out, making sure that that chest rises and falls. And you can give rescue breaths in between those 2 doses of NARCAN as well. So you can give the NARCAN, give the breaths, and then do the next one. Yep.
Does each NARCAN only have
One spray.
one spray?
Yep.
So when you said the dose again, you're using another?
Another kit. Yep. Absolutely. And it's 4 milligrams of NARCAN. So again, staying until help arrives. I mentioned that an opiate can stay in your system for at least 4 hours. That's why it's super, super important. I will stress it over and over that 911 is called, whether or not you feel comfortable being there when they arrive or not, because that person can re-overdose. That's the potential.
Is it 4 milligrams of mist or liquid?
It's liquid in here, but when it comes out of, when you administer it, it is a mist. Yep. Yep, and then here's the recovery position. This one is definitely better than me doing it up here. This gives a little bit of a better picture. And then taking care. So this answers your question again about we want it at room temperature, protecting from light. So essentially it's like any other medication. If you have Advil, you want to keep it in room temperature, maybe in your medicine cabinet. If it is in your car, if it freezes or if it does evaporate a little bit, it's still effective. It's just not as effective, if that makes sense. Same goes with the expiration date. So the ones that we're giving out right now expire November 2026. So if it's now December 2026, it's expired, this will still work. It's just not going to be as effective. It's just like any medication.
Can you keep it in the fridge if your apartment gets hot and you don't have AC?
I would not recommend in the fridge. Yep. I think that if your apartment is hot and you don't have AC, it's still better off than being really cold. That's a great question. And if it is expired, you can always call us. We can give you more. We can swap them out. But there will always be kits available. If there are not kits in those baskets here in the lobby, police department, town hall, or in the library, you can call us. There's a number on there. There's emails. We have NARCAN available all the time. So if you need more too, if you don't want the fentanyl strips, you don't want the things that are in the kit, you just want the NARCAN, give us a call and we'll make sure that.
What's a fentanyl strip?
Fentanyl strip is essentially for someone who might, for instance, when I was talking about marijuana, if someone is using marijuana and they want to test to make sure there's no fentanyl, this test to make sure.
They test the product to make sure it's safe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, so there's 4 of these in there. And this is really important too. So a lot of people think that Narcan is just for, I don't have someone who's struggling with heroin. I don't have someone who's injecting drugs. This can be for anyone. If you have someone at home who is managing their pain with opiates, you never know. Sometimes people forget that they just took their medication and now they might take more. You never know when you might need Narcan, and there is a stigma where it's just for those who are struggling with illegal substances. There's been many situations where people have just forgotten and they've overdosed on their own personally prescribed medication. So that's why I keep it on hand. You might be going into the city. You never know where you might come into a situation where someone has overdosed. So I carry Advil as well. You never know when you're going to get a headache. So it's similar. It's just have it on you, and you never know if you're going to need it, and hopefully you don't need to use it. And then Drug Take Back Day, we partner with the police department every year, twice a year, so April and October. This is when we encourage people to bring any of their expired, unwanted, unused medications at home. Come and drop it off. There's a kiosk at the police department 24/7 in their lobby. You just drop off your medications, and then they dispose of it appropriately. We don't want you flushing it down the toilets or throwing it out, because that can actually get into our waterways and our soil. So this is the best way to do it, but these are the 2 days that we really promote. Clean out those medicine cabinets, because that's the #1 place where people will go and misuse.